Okay, let's unpack this because it's something you see again and again. How does a small startup, like really under-resourced, sometimes looking like they're just playing around, how do they manage to completely upend a giant established company, a company that seems to be doing everything right?
It's a fantastic question, honestly. It feels like it shouldn't happen, right? Almost like David and Goliath, but it's a pattern.
Yeah, a recurring pattern. It's not just a one-off fluke. So what's the secret sauce?
Well, what's really fascinating and kind of counterintuitive is that it's usually not because the big companies are badly managed or, asleep at the wheel.
Really? Because that's the easy explanation, isn't it? They got complacent.
That's what you'd think. But often they're firing on all cylinders. They're listening to their best customers, they're optimizing profits, improving their products, doing all the stuff the business schools teach.
Following the playbook that made them successful in the first place.
Exactly. But somehow, that very success, those very processes, they end up missing the next big thing. They just don't see it coming, or they see it and dismiss it.
And that's what we're diving into today. We want to really break down the core ideas behind disruptive innovation theory, especially drawing from Clayton Christensen's work, The Innovator's Dilemma.
Which is such a foundational piece of thinking on this.
Absolutely. And this isn't just like dry theory. It's a practical mental model. If you're an entrepreneur wanting to shake things up, or an executive trying not to get shaken up, you need to understand this stuff.
For sure. By the end of this, you'll get why those products that initially look like, well, toys, can end up completely redefining a market.
Right. You'll see how they get their start, how they gain traction, and how they eventually challenge the big guys. It's kind of a shortcut to understanding one of the most crucial strategic ideas out there. So let's jump in. Okay, so let's start with that core paradox. Why do these successful, well-managed companies stumble? You said it's not bad management. So what is it? It feels like they're trapped somehow.
That's a good way to put it. They are trapped. But it's a trap born out of their success. Think about it. Their entire organization, the processes, the values, the way they measure success, it's all been fine-tuned to serve their current, most profitable customers.
And those customers want better versions of what they already have. Right?
Precisely. They want improvements, faster, more powerful, more features. These are what Christensen called sustaining innovations.
Sustaining innovations.
Okay.
Like a better camera on the new phone model.
Exactly. Or a car with slightly better mileage, or a fancier infotainment system. Things that make the existing product better along the lines that current customers already value, and crucially, that they're willing to pay more for.
Which sounds like smart business. Give the customer what they want.
It is smart business for the current market, but the problem is the incentives inside the company all push towards these sustaining innovations. One of our sources mentions how incentives focused on profit and efficiency improvements tend to crowd out exploring riskier, less predictable strategies in new markets.
Ah, so the hunt for predictable profits makes them ignore the weird stuff happening at the edges.
Totally, because those weird things, the potentially disruptive things, they just don't look good on the spreadsheets initially.
Which brings us to this fantastic idea that looks like a toy phenomenon. This seems absolutely key.
It's critical. Disruptive innovations almost always start out looking unimpressive. They show up in maybe the low end of the market, or they create a whole new market where nothing existed before.
And the products themselves?
They're often simpler, cheaper, maybe less powerful, or they lack features compared to the mainstream stuff. Think early personal computers compared to mainframes, or maybe early digital cameras versus film.
Right. They seem inferior if you compare them directly on the metrics the established market cares about.
Exactly, and that's why the big incumbents dismiss them. There are a few big reasons. First, the profit margins are usually terrible, at least initially.
Lower price, maybe higher costs at first, smaller market.
Precisely. If you think about that profit formula, price minus cost times quantity, the disruptor looks awful on paper compared to the incumbent's high-volume, high-margin products. Why would a manager risk their career chasing tiny margins in a small market?
Especially when their bonus depends on hitting numbers in the main business.
Right. Second, the market often looks tiny or non-existent. It's hard for a big company geared towards large markets to get excited about something super niche.
They can't make a business case for it.
They can't. And third, the performance metrics are different. The disruptor might win on convenience or simplicity or affordability things the incumbent's high-end customers might not value as much, at least not yet.
So the incumbent looks at the toy through the lens of their customers and their business model, and it just doesn't compute.
It doesn't fit. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. And this connects to that idea of first level versus second level thinking.
How so?
Well, first level thinking is just looking at the surface. This toy is cheap, low performance, small market, ignore it.
Simple reaction.
Simple and often wrong in the long run. Second level thinking asks, okay, it's basic now, but what if it gets better? What if it improves really fast? What underlying need is it tapping into? Could that market grow?
And incumbents often get stuck in that first-level reaction.
They do, because their whole system, their mental models are geared towards the present, towards optimizing what they already know.
Which ties into those red ocean traps we read about. They're so busy fighting competitors in their existing market.
That they don't even see the wide open blue ocean where the disruptor is quietly setting up shop. Their ingrained assumptions about how the world works literally blind them.
And that marketing myopia idea fits here too, doesn't it? Defining your business too narrowly. Thinking you're in the railroad business, not the transportation business.
Exactly. Or the oil business, not the energy business. They get locked into the product they sell, not the job the customer's hiring the product to do. They start thinking their current product is indispensable.
Which is a dangerous thought.
Hugely dangerous. It breeds complacency and makes you vulnerable to outsiders who redefine the job or find a totally new way to do it.
So summing up this first part.
Yeah.
The very things that make established companies successful, listening to customers, focusing on profits, optimizing current processes, can paradoxically become their downfall when a disruptive innovation comes along. Their success creates blind spots.
That's the innovator's dilemma in a nutshell. Rational decisions based on established frameworks lead them away from the future.
Okay, so we see why the giants stumble. They're caught in this dilemma, optimizing for today, blind to tomorrow's game. But how does the disruptor, the little guy, actually win? They can't just march in and declare victory. What's their strategy?
Right, they have to be clever. They almost never challenge the incumbent head-on, not in the main market where the incumbent is strongest. That would be suicide.
So they sneak in the back door.
Kind of. They find a foothold somewhere the incumbent isn't really looking or doesn't care about. Usually it's one of two places.
Okay, what are they?
First is the low-end market. They target existing customers who are actually overserved by the current products. People who are paying for features or performance they don't really need.
And they're happy to get something simpler and cheaper.
Exactly. They'll accept lower performance on the traditional metrics if the price is right, or if it's way more convenient. Think budget airlines initially, or maybe simple online tax software versus a high-end accountant.
Got it. So that's one entry point. What's the other?
The other is creating a new market foothold. This is about targeting non-consumers.
People who weren't buying the existing product at all.
Right, because it was too expensive, too complicated, or they just didn't have access. The disruptor offers something so much simpler or more affordable that it brings these people into the market for the first time.
Like the personal computer bringing computing to homes, not just big companies.
Perfect example. Or maybe think about how smartphones with decent cameras made photography accessible to everyone, not just those who could afford DSLRs. They create a whole new market segment.
And that idea from Purple Cow fits here perfectly, right?
Yeah.
Don't aim for everybody, aim for a specific niche first.
Absolutely. Target a niche, make something remarkable for them, get them talking, and then you might break through to the mainstream. Start small, start focused.
So they find this overlooked niche, but how do they actually build the product? They don't have massive R&D labs.
No, they have to be incredibly resourceful. This is where the lean startup methodology is so important. They don't try to build the perfect finished product right away.
They build an MVP, a minimum viable product.
Exactly. Just the bare minimum version of the product that lets them start learning from real users. It's about getting it out there fast, even if it's clunky.
Even if it looks like a toy.
Especially if it looks like a toy. Because the goal isn't perfection, it's learning. Get the MVP out, measure how people use it, get feedback, learn, and then iterate. Build, measure, learn, repeat.
It's like a rapid cycle of experimentation.
It is. They use techniques like A/B testing, talk directly to early adopters. They adapt constantly based on real-world data, not just internal assumptions. It's a huge advantage over incumbents stuck in long development cycles.
They're learning faster, even if they start behind on features.
Way faster. And that learning fuels the next stage, which is crucial. They don't stay in that initial niche forever.
Right. They have to grow. They have to disrupt.
They have to relentlessly move up market. Once they've got that foothold, once the technology starts improving, they add features, boost performance, improve quality.
And they start appealing to more demanding customers.
Exactly. They creep upwards, getting better and better, until eventually they start meeting the needs of the mainstream customers, the incumbents' core market.
And often they still have an advantage, right? Like lower cost or more convenience.
Often, yes. Because they built their business model around that initial low cost or simple structure. So they can offer similar performance to the incumbent, but maybe cheaper or easier to use, pulling those mainstream customers away.
We saw that with the Tesla example, didn't we? Starting super high-end niche, then moving down towards the mainstream.
Textbook example. Roadster, first tiny niche, proved the concept. Then Model S owning the luxury sedan segment. Then Model 3 aiming for the broader market. A clear upward, or in their case, broadening trajectory.
But all this takes money. Even lean startups need funding, especially if they're not profitable right away. How do these underdogs get the cash to fuel this climb?
That's a really critical piece. Traditional financing, like bank loans, often doesn't work for these risky, unproven ventures.
Because they don't have assets or predictable profit.
Right. So historically, you see waves of new financing mechanisms pop up alongside technological revolutions. You need, as one source put it, bold financiers willing to bet on the future.
Like the junk bond market in the 80s.
That's a key example. Michael Milken basically created a market that allowed smaller, high-growth, often disruptive companies to access capital they couldn't get from traditional banks. It funded cable companies, tech startups, companies that looked risky but had huge potential.
So it's not just the idea and the execution, but also access to risk-tolerant capital that enables disruption.
Absolutely. Without that fuel, many disruptive ideas would just fizzle out before they had a chance to move up market. The financial ecosystem plays a huge role.
Okay, theory is great, but let's make this really concrete. Let's look at some actual stories. You mentioned the diesel locomotive earlier, GM, versus the steam engine giants. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, it's such a powerful historical case. You had these massive established companies, Baldwin, American Locomotive, totally dominant in steam engines. They had deep ties with the
And
railroads.
steam was king, right? Big, powerful.
It was, and they kept making incremental improvements to steam. But then GM, an outsider from the auto industry, came along with diesel.
Which the incumbents saw as, what?
A passing fad, according to one source. They just didn't take it seriously. Maybe it wasn't as powerful initially. On some metrics, it was different technology. It looked like a toy, relatively speaking.
But the railroad saw something else.
The railroads, especially during the Depression, were desperate to cut costs. And diesel offered huge advantages. Lower fuel costs, less maintenance, smoother operation, cleaner.
A different kind of value proposition.
Exactly. It wasn't just about raw power. It was about operational efficiency and cost savings. GM listened to that need, while the incumbents kept pushing steam.
And the result?
Total transformation. GM rapidly gained market share. By the mid-1950s, building steam locomotives essentially stopped. The incumbents were completely displaced, vanished.
Wow. Just wiped out by a passing fad.
Oh.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it, what fads today are actually the beginning of the end for someone else?
It's the million-dollar question for every executive.
Okay, let's jump forward. Apple II and the PC revolution. The incumbents there were the mainframe guys, right? IBM, DEC.
Yeah, selling massive, expensive machines to big corporations and universities. Computing was this specialized, high priest kind of activity.
And then Apple comes along with this thing.
This little beige box, the Apple II. As the Steve Jobs biography notes, it essentially launched the personal computer industry, sold millions over many years.
Though it wasn't powerful like a mainframe.
Not even close. But that wasn't the point. It was accessible, relatively affordable. You could put it on your desk, run simple programs, play games. It created a new market, individuals, hobbyists, small businesses, people who were non-consumers of mainframes.
It definitely looked like a toy compared to $1 million mainframe in an air-conditioned room.
Absolutely. You can imagine the IBM execs scoffing.
Yeah.
But it democratized computing. And as the hardware got better and software like VisiCalc came along, it started moving upmarket, doing real work, and eventually challenging the bigger systems.
It redefined what a computer even was for most people.
Fundamentally.
Okay, fast forward again. Tesla. We touched on this, but it's such a current, powerful example. The incumbents are the giant global automakers.
Giants. Deeply invested in internal combustion engine technology, massive factories, global supply chains.
And Tesla comes along, electric only.
And They execute the disruptive playbook almost perfectly. Start niche as 0 to 1 points out the high-end electric sports car, the Roadster.
Super expensive, small volume, but got everyone's attention.
Exactly. Proved electric could be cool and fast. Then move upmarket with the Model S, targeting the luxury sedan segment, winning awards, outselling competitors even at a high price.
Slapped Detroit sober, as one source put it.
It really did. And then the push towards broader markets with the Model 3, getting hundreds of thousands of pre-orders. It's that relentless improvement and expansion, forcing the entire industry to pivot towards electric.
They didn't just build a car. They arguably changed the trajectory of the whole auto industry.
And maybe energy and manufacturing, too. It's a massive disruption still unfolding.
Let's talk about Amazon. They disrupted not just one, but multiple industries. Retail, publishing.
Yeah, Amazon's story is fascinating. The incumbents were brick-and-mortar stores and traditional publishers. Bezos saw the insurmountable advantages of e-commerce, especially understanding customers individually.
The personalization, the recommendations.
Right. One-to-one marketing, as another source calls it. They started super niche, just books. Everyone remembers that.
But they didn't stay there.
Not at all. Music, DVDs, electronics, then everything. But it was strategic expansion, staging the opportunities, not random. And they disrupted pricing, too, especially with ebooks.
That $9.99 price point for bestsellers, that was controversial.
Hugely. They lost money on it initially. But Bezos made a gut call, betting that lower prices would drive adoption and eventually force publishers to lower their wholesale prices. It was a long-term play to reshape the market.
And it worked. They completely transformed how people buy things and read things.
Fundamentally, many incumbents couldn't adapt and failed.
Now, what about an incumbent fighting back? Microsoft is interesting because they were the dominant force for so long.
Oh, yeah. In the 90s, as Crossing the Chasm described, Microsoft owned the desktop. They controlled the gates to the city with Windows and Office. They seemed untouchable.
They can basically decide who lived or died in the software world.
Pretty much. But then came new disruptions, ones that took years to build momentum, mobile and cloud.
Things that happened outside the traditional PC ecosystem they controlled.
Exactly. And even Microsoft, with all its power, found its dominance challenged. It took these massive shifts, more than a decade in the making, to really put a dent in their position.
But they did respond, didn't they, under Satya Nadella?
They did. And Hit Refresh talks about that internal transformation, focusing on cloud first, mobile first, being more open, meeting customers where they were, even if it wasn't on Windows.
So it shows even the biggest incumbents can adapt. But it requires facing the disruption head-on and being willing to change fundamentally, hitting refresh, literally.
It does. It shows that no one is immune, but also that response is possible, though incredibly difficult. It requires recognizing you might be out of alignment with where the world is going and having the leadership to steer the ship in a new direction.
Okay, we've seen the pattern, we've heard the stories. Let's boil this down. If you're listening to this, what are the practical takeaways? Let's start with the entrepreneurs, the potential disruptors out there. What's the advice?
If you're dreaming big and want to build something disruptive, the first thing is find your niche. Seriously, don't go head-to-head with the giants on their turf.
Look for the edges.
Look for the edges. Look for those underserved customers, or even better, the non-consumers. Find a group whose needs aren't being met and build something remarkable just for them, like Purple Cow suggests.
Don't be afraid if it looks small or unglamorous at first.
Absolutely not. That's often where the opportunity lies. Second, start lean, learn fast, embrace that MVP idea.
Get something out there quickly.
Get it out, measure, learn, iterate, use the build, measure, learn loop. Don't wait for perfection. Your goal is rapid learning and adaptation. And related to that, third, be patient but persistent.
Because people will dismiss your toy.
They will. Expect it. Understand it's part of the process. You need that grit, that perseverance to stick with it through the early days when everyone tells you it won't work.
It's a long game.
It is. And finally, look for hidden value. Think like Rockefeller with that sulfurous Lima crude oil. What are others overlooking or discarding that actually holds immense potential?
Find value where others see waste or problems.
Exactly. That contrarian thinking, seeing opportunity in what's dismissed, is crucial for a disruptor.
Okay, powerful advice for the builders. Now, let's flip it. What about the executives in established companies? The ones who want to avoid being the next cautionary tale? This feels harder in some ways. How do you fight your own success?
It is hard. It requires conscious effort against the grain of the organization. First, you have to challenge your mental models.
Question your own assumptions.
Constantly ask, Are our beliefs about our market, our customers, our competitors still valid? Are we trapped in red ocean thinking? Are we applying second-level thinking to new trends, or just reacting superficially?
Don't just assume the way things are is the way they'll stay.
Never. Second, monitor the edges. Pay real attention to those seemingly insignificant niches, the low-end markets, the nascent technologies,
Even if they look unprofitable right now.
especially then, because that's where disruption brews. Maybe set up separate teams, innovation labs, venture arms, whatever it takes to explore these areas without the pressure of immediate profitability that kills exploration in the core business. Don't let short-term profit focus blind you to long-term threats or opportunities.
You need scouts looking over the horizon.
Definitely. Third, don't be blinded by current success. That idea of indispensability we talked about. Recognize it as a trap. Be willing to disrupt yourselves.
Cannibalize your own products before someone else does.
If necessary, yes. It's painful, but potentially less painful than being blindsided. And finally, foster internal agility. Build a culture that can adapt, learn, and change.
Easier said than done.
Much easier said than done. But it means encouraging experimentation, tolerating failure as a learning opportunity, and ensuring your organizational structure and leadership are aligned with the changing environment, not just the current one. You need to be able to hit refresh internally, continuously.
So it's about building responsiveness and resilience into the company's DNA, creating an environment where those internal toys can actually grow.
Exactly. It requires deliberate leadership to nurture those potentially disruptive ideas internally, rather than letting the corporate immune system kill them off because they don't fit the current mold.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, we've seen this powerful pattern. Disruption starts small, often looking insignificant, maybe even like a toy. It targets overlooked markets, the low end, or creates entirely new ones.
And incumbents, trapped by their own success and rational focus on current customers and profits, tend to dismiss these threats until it's too late.
While the disruptor uses lean methods, learns fast, and relentlessly improves, moving upmarket to eventually challenge and often displace the established players.
Understanding this dynamic is it's essential. Whether you're the potential disruptor or the potential disrupted, this framework helps you see the strategic landscape more clearly.
It's not just interesting theory. It's a practical lens for seeing how industries evolve and how the future might unfold. It helps you think about strategy in a fundamentally different way.
Definitely. It's about seeing potential where others see junk and seeing vulnerability where others see strength.
Which leads us to a final thought for you to chew on. One of our sources, talking about surveillance capitalism, notes how we've often been unprepared for threats from new companies with imaginative names run by young geniuses that give us what we want at little or no cost.
Think about all the free services we use today. Social media, search, AI tools. They seem amazing, convenient, almost magical.
They meet our needs so well, often without us paying directly. But consider this. How might these free or incredibly low-cost offerings, operating on business models that incumbents maybe don't even recognize or measure, be setting the stage for the next wave of disruption?
A disruption that we as individuals, as companies, as a society might not fully grasp yet. What are the hidden exchanges? What value is shifting hands beneath the surface while we enjoy the convenience?
Are today's free toys creating dependencies or market shifts that will fundamentally change the game in ways we aren't prepared for? Something to think about.
Definitely something to think about.
We'll leave you with that thought. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.